clients hope to receive closing books quite soon after a transaction, and it's actually probably one of my greatest frustrations working with traditional law firms is just the time it takes to finally get that closing book.
Then you had all these documents that you had to do something with. Scanning them in to make a record book if you were lucky. If you weren't lucky, everyone wanted originals, and maybe you had to produce 8 originals of this record book. And you were just sort of hoping and praying that the right version ended up in that record book, because things were happening, all over the place. And did you get the right document in there? You hope so. And then 5 years later, if there is an issue, people are relying on this, and then you got to go back in time. So that wasn't great.
And nothing bothers me more than, reviewing the dockets on a file and just seeing all the time spent on assembling closing books. I mean, in my mind, once a transaction closes, we're done. There shouldn't be that much in additional costs. And so it's extremely frustrating to pay for something that, I'm not getting the value for it.
Sounds like a very simple task, but actually it does take a little bit of time to figure out how to best group the documents, to index them, to put all of those things together. So in an ideal world, and I have sort of done it before, in a week or two, but sometimes it does end up taking a bit longer than that to put everything together.
So one of my first assignments in my first year as a lawyer was to put together a closing book, or a record book as we often call it in Canada, for a deal I didn't do. A bunch of our summer students had done the deal. The documents were allegedly on our system, and it should have been an easy task, but it turned out I didn't quite have all of them, not sure where they were, and I had no context on this deal. So here I am months later, digging through physical boxes, digging through our system, trying to figure out where these documents are, because you think our client might want a copy of the things they've agreed to and are contractually bound by. Painful process, dozens and dozens of hours spent, obviously not billed to the client because we provided zero value. This was totally our fault.
It depends so largely on sort of the size of the deal. I've seen sort of, some transaction bibles be ready in a few weeks, some taking months, because there really is just so much to work through. And also, depends on whether there were originals in other countries or there's sort of other factors that meant there needed to be a delay.
Because when you're setting this out 3 months later, because you put it off because you're busy, not only are you going to waste all your time trying to remember what happened, but the client's not going to pay that bill. You can't charge them for that.
I think it can sort of massively impact the perception. Again, it's often sort of about how things end, which is unfortunate because, sometimes these deals can carry on for a year, but, people do sort of remember the end. And, I think a closing Bible is something that isn't necessarily front of mind for people immediately after signing. It's something that I think probably most people, particularly the senior people, would sort of forget about. But if there comes a time where something goes wrong or they need to check something and they don't have that to hand immediately, that can be a real cause of frustration.